This is Jordan Moorhead, and this is the Austin Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today we have a special guest, Aaron Bihl from San Antonio is going to come on and tell us all about what he's doing down in San Antonio to be successful in real estate. Hey, Aaron, how are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing great. Great to have you on here, man. I know we just started following each other recently on social media, and we've talked a lot about deals in San Antonio and just different things going on, but I really want to let people know what the San Antonio market is like and how you're being successful in real estate. So could you tell our guests who you are and how you're involved with real estate investing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one, thanks for having me, of course. My name's
Thank
Aaron
you.
Bihl. I'm in out of San Antonio, and then my main thing is me and a business partner have a company, and we buy houses direct to sellers. So, we'll occasionally buy from wholesalers, agents, that sort of stuff, but probably upwards of 95% of our business is, working directly with homeowners. From there, we do a lot of fix and flips. We wholesale a little bit. We buy rentals. We have Airbnbs. We wholesale kind of any strategy you can think of. But our main thing is like we source off market deals, and then we take them from there. And then I've been doing that for about 3.5, 4 years. Before that, I worked in oil and gas for a few different companies. Kind of didn't like that. Got tired of that. Got tired of working for people, and did the agent thing for a while, and then slowly found myself more on the direct to seller investment side, and that's what our business looks like today.
Awesome. So you bring the lead in, you're doing direct to seller marketing, and then at that point you figure out what to do with it. Are you going to wholesale it? Are you going to flip it, wholesale it, or are you going to maybe hold on to it as a rental?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that depends on where it is, what it is, our capacity, preference. Like there's certain areas of town or types of projects we don't like taking on. So that's something we would either wholesale. We like newer, nicer houses, or, stuff we can make work for Airbnb. So that's more the stuff that, we'll, hold if we have the capacity to like take on the project, refinance at that point. Yeah, so it just kind of depends. We're kind of all over the place and depends on the project. But, our main thing is just buying good deals and then figuring out what to do with them.
Yeah, I like it. And I like that you have a criteria for the deals you're going to hold on to, because I talk to people all the time and they say, well, why would you not just buy any deal that you find that's a good deal? And I'm like, well, most of the time they don't fit my criteria. So I have a buy box people talk about of I want to buy this
Yep.
specific thing in this specific area for this specific price range. And having a buy box really helps when this is the type of property I'm looking for, and especially in your business where you're getting a lead, and if it fits that buy box, you said, okay, we'll buy it. And do we have capacity to buy it? But if not, how else are we going to sell it and help somebody else have a great opportunity? So really cool business. Could you
Yep,
tell
absolutely.
our listeners, how did you get started real estate investing? So you were in oil and gas. They don't relate too much. What got you interested in real estate investing?
Oh, not at all. But like probably everyone else that listens to this, somehow I stumbled upon Bigger Pockets,
Mm-hmm.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that whole, like path that I feel like everyone has to take.
Yeah.
Um, and then I just started like, I just had this like strange idea in my head of like, if I just bought a house every year, like, and I could rent it for the mortgage, like in 10 years, I'd have 10 houses. And then you start listening to stuff and you realize one, like that criteria is like bad. Like it paying for itself is not the objective, like not
Mm-hmm.
what I want to base stuff off of. But then you also find this whole community of like, oh, there's all these other people that like are actually into this thing that I thought I just made up in my head. Um, so then from there, I just kind of became obsessed with it, and you know, that like kind of paralleling with a job I didn't like. A good paying job, you know, all that good stuff, but I just really didn't like it, and it like kind of made me miserable. So I, kind of took a year of, hey, how can I get some Airbnbs, save money, get my license, figure out how to do something else. And then that started with me being an agent. I worked for a small like investment brokerage here. started, getting into the kind of like, wholesaling off market deal, sort of business. Did 3 or 4 deals working for this broker. And then I was like, hey, I got to figure out how to do this on my own
Mhm.
because each one was progressively a little more money. And I was splitting, 30 to 60% of that with a broker. And then was like, hey, if I find my own deals, I think I can figure this out. So then it was a matter of, connecting with people that buy direct to seller and, what does that look like? So that was kind of the quick summary of my probably year and a half long process of, hey, I work in a corporate office, doing what I went to school for to now I do nothing that relates to degrees I have and, slowly grown into this real estate thing that's evolved over time.
So, just out of curiosity, what is your degree?
I have a undergrad in environmental health science, and
Okay.
then I have a master's in safety, security, and emergency management.
Wow.
So I worked at like refineries and then like a corporate role once I moved back to San Antonio. So,
Okay.
you know,
S- It's completely off what you're doing now. Nothing to do with what you're
oh,
doing now.
absolutely. Very different. Like everything we do now is it's very sales oriented.
Uh-huh.
We're, marketing for stuff, but it's like, my main role is in our business. Well, now it's a lot of things, but it's mainly the sales side, like meeting with sellers,
Mhm.
negotiating deals, following up and kind of like managing that entire sales process with buying houses, which is just completely different than my background, but it's a lot of fun. And I've realized I'm not very employable and not good at working for people. So here we are.
Perfect. Yeah, you're in a good spot now. So, you started as an agent working for an investment brokerage. You started to figure out how to do deals on your own. Why continue to invest in San Antonio? Just because you know it, or any reasons that you really love San Antonio, or are you bullish on the future of San Antonio?
Um, I mean, I guess because like that's where I live, right?
Hmm.
So I'm a big fan of, investing kind of in your backyard.
Hmm.
So I mean, I'm from like Southern Ohio, don't
Okay.
have a lot of plans to move back to, the Ohio, Kentucky area.
Hmm.
Really like San Antonio. It's, we don't have, some of the crazy growth that you guys see in Austin and all of that, but it's more like slow and steady, right? Like
Mm.
it doesn't get like doesn't grow super crazy fast. It doesn't go down super crazy fast. And I just really like the city. So not a whole lot of reason of why other than this is kind of where I am and what I know.
Yeah, it's basically a giant military base with a lot of hospitals and a lot of other businesses there too. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
good things about San Antonio. Are you from the Cincinnati area?
So actually like 2 hours east of Cincinnati. So still on the
Okay.
river, but kind of my hometown's Portsmouth. So by like Kentucky and West Virginia. Like I was probably like 10 minutes from Kentucky growing up, kind of
Okay.
like the very southern tip of Ohio.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
It's made your way to Texas and you're not going back.
Yeah, just don't tell my parents that.
Yeah. Oh, I won't. Don't worry. So, you're doing a lot of direct to seller deals, and I'm sure you're finding them in a lot of really different ways. So, when you're talking to these sellers, what's something you look for to avoid doing a bad deal? So, you've talked to a seller, the numbers look good. You're walking through the house and you're saying, hey, maybe I'd want to hold on to this, but what's a big red flag for you?
As far as like condition of the house or
Or the deal, condition or deal. What's just a red flag that you look out for of, hey, I might not want to do this deal?
oh man, if the numbers work, I'll do any deal. I mean, honestly,
Okay.
like it's there's definitely areas I don't like, but
Hmm.
and then there's kind of a level of like I always tell people because people will be like, why are people selling you their house at a 30, 40, 50% discount? And some of that's purely convenience, nice house, nice places. We buy a lot of those.
Hmm.
But then like more often than not, they're like there's something going on in your life. Like rarely are people like, hey, my life is like, great and everything's going well. Like I'm going to sell you my house for 30% off.
Mhm,
So we deal with, I mean, any sort of like life situation you can imagine.
mhm,
The only thing that like is a red flag for me to the extent of like not wanting to buy it is just like just people being sketchy. Like, if I feel like they're like lying on stuff. I mean, that all comes out with like title searches and whatnot.
mhm.
But I mean, my policy on that kind of stuff is like I just, the crazier they are, the worse the house is. Like I just factor it into the deal. Like if you're gonna be a pain to deal with, like I'm getting a better deal on it because I don't want to like mess with you. So
Sure.
there's no red flags. It's more just like, hey, that's another 5 to 10% off because you're not fun to work with.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like for you, location is really the red flag. It's you can't fix the, and I always tell people that you can't fix the location. You can fix the house, like you said. It can be in the most terrible condition, have foundation issues, plumbing issues, electrical issues, but that can all be fixed. You can't fix where it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's and I guess on that side there's things that, if it's a lot of people like the east side of San Antonio, east side of downtown, like
Mhm.
I won't own a house there. Like I have,
Yeah.
but I won't. And so it's like that those areas it's more like, hey, who do I know that does buy here, or the strategy works for them, or whatever.
Mhm.
Based on that. And then it's like, cool, I don't want to like I'm not going to take on a project there, but it's more, east side of downtown, west side of downtown. I'm like, cool, like the numbers work, we'll buy it. It's just I don't want to hold anything there. But if, you're into kind of like hoodie rentals, like might be your thing. Or if you're
Yeah.
into owner financing, it might be your thing. Um, I like the newer, nicer stuff that doesn't need a ton of work. So, like 70s, 80s builds and newer, those are the houses I like to fix. So, and over time, you have the ability to be a little pickier on what you want to do and what you don't. And that's kind
Mhm.
of, where we're at now.
Well, and what you're talking about is you have all these multiple exit strategies with any property that comes in. So if you get a seller lead, you're picking what to do with it based on where it is and what it is. But there's
Absolutely.
I love that line of thinking for everything too. I think it's easy to say, "Oh, this doesn't work for me." It doesn't work for you, but what about somebody else? If this deal doesn't work for me, maybe it does for Aaron, or maybe it does for another
Yeah.
strategy. So not
Yep.
just passing up on opportunities and saying, "Yeah, that's not for me." Saying, "Well, how can I make this work for me?" And it doesn't have to be in my typical way of I'm going to buy it and put a long-term rental tenant in it. It could be I'm going to buy it and do a short-term rental out of it, or I'm going to wholesale it, or I'm going to
Yep.
buy it and flip it or wholesale it. There's so many ways to make money in real estate, and that's why it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, our like preference is like, we're buy and hold investors. We
Mhm.
we want to burr everything we can. We want to keep everything we can, but it's just a capacity thing. And sometimes, it's like, what does the business need? We need money to fund rehabs and to
Mhm.
furnish short-term rentals and all these other things. And there's definitely houses we've sold that we're like, I want to keep that one,
Oh
and
yeah.
it like pains you, and you see it a few months later, and you're like, I wish would have kept that one. But it's always this battle of like, what can we hold on to? Like, what can we keep? But, some of that's just managing that, like, how long does a project take? How long does the refinance take? Figuring out all of that, and then, kind of seeing what you need at the given time and what you can take on.
Awesome. And you mentioned a term there that I want to talk about that I get asked about a lot. So BRRRR is the BRRRR strategy is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And you buy a property typically that's in rougher shape, you fix it up, you rent it out, you wait a certain amount of time depending on the bank. Maybe you don't have to wait any time. Then you refinance it, and ideally you get most of or all of your money back and you repeat. And Aaron, could you talk about that strategy a little bit and why you like it?
Yeah, for sure. So, it's definitely something that we prefer. And
Mhm.
when I bought stuff before we were doing our own marketing, like this idea of like the perfect burr of like, you could fix it and take all your money out, I thought was a myth.
Mhm.
And then, we start doing our own marketing, our own mail, ads, whatever. And, suddenly we have these opportunities where I'm like, cool, we can be all in. We can buy it for 120, put in 10, 20 grand of work and it'd be worth 200 and refinance at 75, 80%, whatever. Right. Pull that money out. And then, we have this thing we own, not free and clear, but we have no money in it.
Mhm.
And then we just kind of repeat that process. So that's anything we're buying and holding, that's our preferred method. If we can't refinance, there's some we'll leave money in, but it's pretty rare.
Mhm.
Normally, we're getting good enough deals. And the issue in San Antonio is not like the equity, it's more, will this cash flow enough to, get a, DSCR loan that's based on the rent paying down the mortgage payment, right?
Yeah.
Or the ratio between the rent and the mortgage payment. So that's our issue in San Antonio, because I'm sure your taxes in Austin are crazy too. But
Oh, man.
our uh, our appraisal district kind of likes to play this game of like, how much can we raise them each year? So
Mhm.
we've had properties double, we've had them go up significantly. So for us, it's a matter of, hey, not only do we need enough equity to refinance this, we also have to make sure, either as a long-term or short-term rental, something we can still cash flow this thing so it makes sense. Which is normally the kind of like 250,000 and less houses,
Mhm.
more probably sub 200. You get over that and you're like, you can have like the nicest house in the world in San Antonio. No one's paying you like 3 or 4 grand a month for it. Like it just doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
pool, like 10 acre, like no one cares. It's like there just aren't rentals at that price point that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's a big, I think that's the big shortcoming of Burr. And like you just said, you buy a property, you need to buy it at such a good deal that after you rehab it and get a new loan on it and get most of or all your money back, it cash flows well. And something you mentioned was property taxes. Yeah, they're aggressive with property taxes in Texas, and different cities are different. Austin's very aggressive. San
Yep.
Antonio is also very aggressive, but they're aggressive because that's how they fund the schools and the road and the police and everything, because we don't have state income tax. So
Yep.
when you're doing a burr, understand that you might be getting all of your money back, but you also might not get a ton of money every month. And that's just a price you pay for not really having any money in it. If you would have bought that same property for 120 that Aaron mentioned as example, and then you put that 20 into it, your payments are much lower than a $160,000 loan, because you bought it for 120, you put 20 in, maybe you've got a $90,000 loan on it. I mean, that's great. You're going to cash flow really well, but you have $50,000 in that property. So just a much
Yep.
different scenario. But
Yeah.
I
The
love the
one
Burr
thing
strategy too.
that I will say that we've found too is we run TV ads. So,
Oh, cool.
with mail and stuff, we can kind of, Google ads, we control where stuff's coming in, all of that. When you run TV, you kind of get like anything within like a 2 hour radius.
Mhm.
So, we just bought a house in Kerrville, hour 15 minutes from San Antonio. So we get a lot of these kind of like outskirts, tertiary markets. And, if you want to have rentals in those places, I feel like they do better. Like some of those counties aren't near as aggressive on taxes. So
Mhm.
stuff we own in like Canyon Lake, going north a little bit, like taxes are very reasonable. Or, we buy a lot of mobile homes. Mobile homes, you're basically taxed on the land value. So stuff like that. There's definitely ways, if you're creative, you can find stuff that works for rentals. It's just, it's not going to be your, hey, this is a perfect burr and the taxes are super low and like life's great and the taxes never go up, because that's just not the world we're living in. But
Mhm.
we have other benefits, like we have decent appreciation, and we're pretty stable market. So it's kind of, you just have to work with what you have.
Can you talk about mobile homes for a second? We've actually never had anybody on here that buys mobile homes.
Oh yeah. So I love mobile homes, which is not normal. Uh, so I had a friend who does what we do in Florida, and he was in like a real high price point market. So he started buying mobile homes because, like, single family house are like $500,000-600,000. So he's like,
Mhm.
how am I going to do this? So I kind of talked to him, and then I just kind of realized, like, no one buys these, or you're able to get really good deals because there's a very like low perceived value of,
Mhm.
like, I can buy a mobile home and, run our numbers of being all in at 55, 60, 65%. Um, Whereas if I make an offer on like a stick built house that way, and there's any competition at all, like, there's no one's going to take that offer, right? So, we're buying those at like 70, 75%, and mobile homes we're getting a lot deeper as far as discount. So I just kind of like played with it a little bit, and then, I've flipped, I don't know, probably 20 plus at this point. And strangely, there's like, I still don't like fully understand it. Like, I don't know why people want to live in mobile homes, but they do. And I've kind of just like resolved to, like, I don't really need to understand, as long as someone buys it. So there's we'll only buy stuff with land, like we're not buying homes in parks or on leased land or anything.
Mhm.
But as long as it comes with a lot, like, and they're a lot of times they're a little more rural, so kind of outskirts of San Antonio. But they've been some of the best deals we've done. Really like them. So there's quirks with them, but a lot of these are like 90s and newer builds
Oh,
too. So
wow.
it's like you're not rewiring it, you're not replumbing it. So there's I don't know. I think there's less that can go wrong a lot of times.
Mhm.
And then it's like, my thing is like, as long as there's comps for them. So, like, are people buying them with conventional loans? Are people buying them with cash? And as
Mhm.
long as those exist, I'm like, okay, someone will buy this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We like them and do quite a few of them.
I think there's a huge stigma around mobile homes, and I really think it's the mobile word is a big if you say manufactured home, it's the same thing, but people
Yep.
hear that and they say, "Oh, that's one of those fancy modular homes or something like that." And you're like, "No, I'm talking about that mobile home right there."
Yep.
So there's just such a stigma, and I've been in quite a few where I'm like, "This is nicer than my house." These
Right.
things, they can be really, really nice, and they're a great solution to the affordable housing problem that we seem to have, that it makes you scratch your head and wonder, like, if we really wanted to fix this problem, all we have to do is start allowing people to make more mobile home parks, and affordable housing problem gone. It's so
Yeah.
simple.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, but I've bought houses from people with like three or $400,000 houses, and they're like, I'm like, where are you moving? And they're like, oh, we just bought some land, and like, I'm gonna put a mobile home on it, and then like our son or daughter's gonna live there too. And I
Yeah,
was like, that that's not what I want ever, but you do you, like, but there's people that, like, hey, they want land, they want whatever, and they like mobile homes. So it's kind of a thing of like, I probably wouldn't want to live in one, but
mhm,
I think that there's a market there, and people that want a half acre is not abnormal with a mobile home, or they want to be out of the city, or whatever. So it's been a nice little kind of asset class for us. Or we've done a few in New Braunfels, and it's like, you sell a mobile home in New Braunfels for 150 grand when, like, you can't buy a house under 300 hardly. So
mhm.
it's just like an affordable way to get in places too. But yeah, I mean, we really like them. There's definitely some quirks and some things you need to know, and like, lending's tougher, and like getting like
Yeah,
hard money lenders on board, and there's just a lot of kind of like stigma around it. But it's like, it's just a problem you got to figure out, and if you can figure it out, like, you make money because you solve problems. So that's kind of our experience with mobile homes, and we'll hopefully do a lot more.
yeah, I like it. I like the whole asset class, just the problems it solves and the simplicity of them too. Is, we need to drop a house and we need to be ready in a few days. Mobile home. You
Yep.
know, we want an affordable house, mobile home. So
Yep.
I think
Absolutely.
if we can just start saying manufactured home, people will stop remembering there's a difference between them and modular housing even.
Yeah, because the whole mobile thing, because people will be like, "Oh, like, do you have to take the wheels off of it?" And I'm always like, "What are you talking about?" There's there's all this like, "Oh, you can't finance it unless you take the axle off." Like, people will, like, ask me questions like that, and I'm like, "None of this is real." Like,
Yeah.
it's like we've our title company's gotten really good at mobile homes, and we've gotten good at them, but it's like, there's just all this, like, weird stuff where they'll be like, "Oh, is it on, like, a permanent foundation?" I'm like, "Yeah, go look at it." Like,
Yeah.
here's an engineer report, whatever. But there's just all these like weird like thoughts and beliefs around it. Like the people just like heard somewhere and they'll
Mhm.
repeat, but you're like, that's not even real. Like, where are you getting this? But
Yeah. It's
it's
just
fun.
it's the stigma around them, and it's not a normal house. It's not a stick-built home. They're
Yep.
built similarly sometimes, like they have framing, but they're built in a factory. So
Yep.
yeah, it confuses people. Um, Aaron, do you have some long-term goals, or what's next for you? I know you've been in real estate, you've done a lot in a short amount of time. What's next for you in business?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. So um not super defined or specific. I want to be so for our business, we're probably doing 5 to 8 houses a month that we're buying at this
Nice.
point.
Mhm.
So, the next year we'd like to get that to, probably 10 to 15 a month. And then I personally want to start buying bigger stuff. So storage, commercial, some of that. So my goal is to kind of focus my time on bigger assets,
Mhm.
one from there's a lot of tax benefits to buying that stuff when we're holding it, but also you can just put bigger fees on more expensive stuff.
Mhm.
So we're kind of building out our team on the home buying side, and I will probably shift my focus to some bigger stuff, and then um, I don't know, buy a lot of houses, have a lot of rentals, and it's not a super defined goal or metric, but I mean, my big thing is like I want to have fun, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. As long as I'm doing that, like enjoy my work, I'm good.
That's a good goal. Having fun and enjoying what you're doing is definitely makes it worth it.
Yeah, I had a lot of years of not doing that, so I'm like, cool, like, do I wake up and, like, dread doing what I'm doing? As long as that's not the case, it's like, work's a lot of fun right now, and if that changes, maybe we reevaluate things, but
Mhm.
right now it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's good to hear. Do you have a favorite business or mindset book that you like to recommend to people?
For sure, so, without a doubt, it would be, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Great
So,
book.
I mean, that's something that I mean, honestly, I probably listen to the audiobook of that, like, 2 or 3 times a year.
Nice.
um to the extent that I want it to just like naturally flow into like what I'm doing, how I'm talking to people, all of that. Because the big part of our business is building relationships, working with people, negotiating with sellers, and there's just so many good nuggets in that book that are super applicable to working with people. So yeah, that's definitely the one I recommend.
Yeah, that's a great book too. If anybody hasn't read it, How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie, an amazing book. Aaron, do you have a best way people can get a hold of you or follow you?
Yeah, probably just Instagram. So my name on there is just first name dot last name, so Aaron dot Beal.
Mhm.
Um, I'm always posting what we're doing, crazy stories, stuff you probably don't want to see. But yeah, I mean, I just try to be really transparent and honest. We share the good, we share the bad. It's definitely not a highlight reel, but have a lot of fun along the way. So if you're down for maybe a crazy adventure, give me a follow.
Awesome. No, that's cool to hear that it's not just a highlight reel. It's more of this is real life working with distressed sellers. Do you have a favorite restaurant in San Antonio that you like to recommend to people?
Yeah, so I mean, I could probably give you several.
Mm,
My go-to place is a brewery in Southtown called Künstler Brewery.
mhm.
They have like some German food. They have pretzels. They have brats. Really good beer. Really good, like cool little kind of artsy area of downtown. Yes, that's kind of my go-to spot.
Awesome. Cool. So guys, make sure to follow Aaron on Instagram if you want to see a fun time at aaron.bihl, and you spell Bihl Bihl. Aaron is
Yep.
just Aaron. So at aaron.bihl on Instagram. As always, I'm at Jordan_Moorhead on Instagram. But Aaron, been great having you on here, and I hope to talk to you here soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Talk to you here soon.